Hello Orchid friends, how are you? Welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time watching my video, my channel is all about orchids. From what orchids I have, how I grow them, my thoughts on certain orchid topics, to what orchids in my collection are blooming, etc. So if you want to follow along my orchid hobby adventure, please consider subscribing to my channel and turn on the notification. Today in this video, we're going to look at one of my absolute favorite orchid, Phalaenopsis Sweet Memory. And this one is Sweet Memory M. And its parentage is listed below. I really love this orchid for its fragrance, but I think the way that the flower look, aside from the fragrance, is also a very stunning characteristic. So let's go back in time and see how this orchid progressed. So beginning of 2020, end of January, I have two Sweet Memory M's. They were both putting out, I guess, elongating their existing spikes from last year, and relatively quickly it started to produce buds. So I was really happy, I was thrilled that they were, basically going to rebloom again. But this orchid still kind of took its sweet time. I think altogether it took about 2 months to bloom, to eventually mature the buds to bloom. So during those 2 months, I was really careful with these two orchids. As you know, when orchids are developing their buds, they can be quite susceptible to a lot of changes that cause bud blast or just having issues. So there are quite a few reasons, but there are primarily 4 major categories of reasons that may cause an orchid to have bud blast. Number 1 is obviously temperature change. Number 2 is humidity. And number 3 is more on orchid owners, right? You moving around the orchids too much. And number 4 is the overall health of orchids condition. For example, its roots, or whether there is any pests, pest infestation inside the media, things like that. So there are in general 4 different buckets of categories that may impact an orchid during its bud developing phase. And for me, in my environment, it was, I was having my central air on pretty much all the time to ensure the temperature is somewhat stable. And then because this year I decided not to use my humidifier as much in my new environment, so that is not so much an issue, because my old environment, I needed to use my humidifier all the time because it tended to get real dry because I was on the top floor. And now that I'm on the ground floor, my new house, my sunroom is on the first floor. It doesn't get as much sunlight as before, but the humidity, based on my humidity meter, it's always above 50%. And sometimes I even see the humidity being at 65% for quite a few days. So I think humidity is not going to be an issue. So it's more the third, right? If I move it around too much, I may potentially jeopardize the likelihood of me seeing these orchids in full bloom. So I really didn't move it at all. So how I give it water is something I would like to share in this video. So because these two orchids, this particular one specifically, is grown in semi-hydro, and it's pretty well established in this setup, meaning that it has roots reaching the bottom of the cup already. So when I give this orchid water with or without fertilizer, the quantity is always at quarter cup, because I know quarter cup, this amount is enough to allow the roots at the bottom of the cup to soak up and hydrate this entire orchid, but then also is the right amount for the wet dry cycle to complete within 1 week's time, because I water my orchids weekly and I like to get all my orchids on that weekly schedule, so I don't have to keep track which one needs to be watered more on what day. So I just kind of try to get them on the same schedule to make my life easier. So quarter cup, so I basically use a smaller cup and just kind of pour the water into the container, and then I know it's gonna be done for, I don't have to worry about it for another week. Now this orchid has a really strong fragrance, and it's super sweet fragrance too, and I think that comes from the Bellina part of the parentage, because when I put my nose close to it, I can smell Bellina in it. And also the color is just stunning. I really love its fuchsia / pink color, and the bottom two sepals, it just looks like a typical Bellina. So I adore this orchid. And for some reason, I still don't understand why Sweet Memory is such a difficult orchid to find, and especially if you want to find its different cultivar, Leodoro, it's almost near impossible. I mean, there are some sellers selling it on eBay, but sometimes I see them selling really tiny seedlings for a lot of money, or a mature plant will cost like $75 to $100. I mean, I think I paid $50 for each of my Sweet Memory M, and I have 2 Leodoros in my collections too, and those I got them on eBay from a seller who claimed he has a lot of Leodoro, and he gave me a pretty good price, so it's around $50-$55, I think. I don't understand why they're so expensive, but for me anyway, because I feel, this is my opinion only, when you can afford it, and if you come across orchids that are hard to find, you should always get 2 if possible, because just in case if one goes downhill or is having any issue, you have the other one as a backup, so you're not too sad. Or if you really want to do any experiment, which I always recommend that you choose cheaper orchids to do, but if you have 2, you can always experiment and see what method, use one type of method on one orchid and then another type of method, different media or different water regimen or different fertilizer strength, different locations, just to see how they do differently. Obviously I wouldn't conduct an experiment on my Sweet Memory orchids, nor on my Leodoros, but when you have 2 of the same type of orchid, it's always good to, if they're cheap and easily replaceable, you should definitely try to do some experiment just to see, just for your own learning. I mean, I do it from time to time, but I always choose cheap, easily replaceable orchids to do so. And why? So that I can sleep at night. And coming up is the bonus footage portion of the video. So this is a video clip from 2019. This particular orchid had 3 flowers in 2019, and this year it only has 2 flowers, but last year it had 2 spikes. And the older spike had 1 flower, and then the new spike then produced 2 flowers, so it's a total of 3. But then the new spike then is this year's old spike, but it didn't grow another new spike this year, so we're having 2 flowers. Still pretty good, but I just wish that it would have 1 more spike to produce a better show. And I feel it could be because my current condition, my current growing environment does not have as much sunlight as my old environment. So maybe I just have to move it to a brighter location. So if I do that and have any meaningful progress, I'll definitely make a video update and share it with you. This is all I have for you today. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you would like to get more orchid related videos from my channel, please subscribe and turn on the notification. I want to wish you happy growing, and I will talk to you in my next video. Ciao!